Mother, man.
Hi, this is Joe DiBiase from Withering Scorn, and you're listening to Murder Metal Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri with the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast, and I've got the privilege of doing this interview with bassist Joe DiBiase, formerly of Fate's Warning and currently a member of Withering Scorn. Thanks so much for taking the time out to talk to me today, Joe, and how's things going over there in Connecticut?
Yeah, pleasure to be here with you, Pete. Everything's good here in Connecticut. Bit of a cloudy day here, but
taxes still through the roof, though?
Ridiculous, Pete.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Really want to get the hell out of here.
That's why I left like 30 years ago, dude. I'm living in Illinois, and taxes aren't great here either, but I know it's not what you're paying, so
yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's terrible. But for anybody who doesn't know, I thought I'd bring this up now so everybody's understanding here. Joe and I, we knew each other a long time ago, way back in the day, so to speak. Back in 1985, I started corresponding with Fate's Warning drummer Steve Zimmerman, which is actually a funny story. I was with some buddies of mine at a mall, and we used to have a contest where who could get the most girls' phone numbers, and you added up all the digits to the numbers at the end of the day, and whoever scored the highest won. It was totally stupid. So I'm at this record store, and I approach this girl, and she gives me her number, and we get talking, and I think I had a Fate's Warning shirt on. And she's like, "Oh, wow, the drummer for that band is my boyfriend." And I was like, "Seriously?" So I was trying to get his number. I didn't really want her number. I wanted his number because I was playing in a band, and I thought, wow, that'd be awesome to get in touch with those guys. And so it was kind of a funny way, and Steve thought that was pretty funny afterward. But anyway, so I wrote to the band P.O. Box, and Jim Matheos responded to me. And so I became friends with you guys, went to some band practices, went and saw you on Spectre Within tour, which was unbelievable. Fortunate enough to play in a band that opened for you guys on Awaken the Guardian tour. And actually, 1986, that would have been John Arch's last show as a member of the band. I even bought a Galen Kruger amp, Joe, because you had one. So I really admired you guys. I really was very influenced by you. Jim taught me a lot about the business of music, which was really cool. So there's a definite, place in my heart, so to speak, for you guys. And I just wanted to say thank you for being a part of something that was so influential on me. So I can't say it enough, man. Really cool.
Thanks, Pete.
So now it's 2023, and we're both old, Joe. And you got this album coming out, and it's this exciting new project called Withering Scorn, which I love that name, by the way. Why don't you tell us how that all came about and how you got in with these guys? Because this is like an all-star band when it comes to metal.
Yeah, well, back in 2019, I got an email out of the blue from Glen Drover, who was a huge Fate's Warning fan.
Oh, cool.
And he got my email somehow and wanted to get in contact with me for whatever. And we corresponded a bit, and he said he was working on a solo project, which ended up being called Walls of Blood, if nobody's ever heard that.
Huh.
And you want to know if I want to play bass on a song. So, yeah, man, I'd be honored,
Right.
But I got to tell you, I don't have any home studio set up. I don't know how we're going to record this. So he kind of walked me through it, setting up some software and tell me what equipment I needed to buy and stuff. And we ended up doing a song, and it came out really well. Todd Altieri sings on it. And it came out so well. I got one more with no bass on it if you want to do that one. And we ended up doing another song.
Cool.
Rip Owens sang on that one.
Nice.
And like I said, the project was called Walls of Blood, and the album was called Ethereum, or I forget what the album was called, but if anybody wants to look that up,
Yeah,
Walls of
definitely
Blood,
check that out.
really, some really good stuff on it. So that's how I got hooked up with Glenn. And obviously we stayed in touch, called each other now and then. We had a lot in common, we liked a lot of the same type of music, and, just telling all road stories and whatnot. And that really got me kind of playing again, and maybe thinking to myself, I'd love to keep doing this and get back into this somehow. And
right.
so it's too bad Glenn didn't, ask me to start something with him. And out of the blue, one day I get an email, "Hey, Joe, what do you think about starting a project? Getting a project together?" So,
cool.
You'd never ask,
Right.
What have you been waiting for? I'd love to. So, he further explained that his brother Shawn would be playing drums.
Awesome.
Which was totally cool. And as of yet, we don't have a vocalist, but we have some ideas. Let's just throw you some ideas and put some bass on it and see if it works musically. So we worked on one song, which ended up is on the album. And it, we worked great together, I set my part. We set our parts obviously through the internet, since Glenn is in Windsor, Ontario, and Shawn is in Atlanta, Georgia. So obviously this is long distance.
Right.
So we decided to make a go of it. Let's keep doing this and see what comes out of it. Eventually, we needed to think about a vocalist, because none of us can sing. That's for damn sure. And we went through a lot of names, contacted a few people, and finally the first one that really hooked, that was interested in doing it and fit our style, was Henning Bossi from Germany, who sang with Metallium and a lot of other European bands. Some real in the USA may know of them. But so same thing with him. We'd send him our rough ideas. He'd come back with some vocal ideas, and it went from there.
That's awesome. He's a hell of a singer, man. I'd never heard of him before, but I was like, holy shit. It was really, really strong.
Some big names. He actually toured with Uli Roth from Scorpions.
Oh, nice.
And that band, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, a band from Greece he played with too. But he played a lot of bands that are more popular over in Europe.
Right.
He's been around a long time, like the rest of us. He's old like we are, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, Shawn, of course, played Megadeth for 10 years, and Glenn played Megadeth for a couple, and then King Diamond for a couple. And he was on the House of God album of King Diamond, which I wasn't one I was super familiar with. Had been a long time, so I went back and listened to it. It's freaking killer, man. I mean,
yeah.
I love King Diamond, but yeah, that's just so. Yeah, you got a lot of people been involved in some pretty big projects. So
yeah, yep,
that's super cool.
And it turned out that actually Shawn actually wrote the majority of the music and lyrics, which I thought was kind of funny. Because originally I thought it was all Glenn, because Glenn was the one I was, the one I was in most contact with. We were trading the ideas back and forth.
Right. Well, I did read an interview with Shawn. I think he did say he wrote the music, which I thought was interesting as a drummer, but then Glenn did the recording. And that was like how they decided it back in the day, was I'll do the writing, you do the recording, and we'll be busy. So that's obviously a proven method.
Yeah. Glenn has his own studio up in Windsor. That's what he does for a living. He records other bands and mixes other bands.
Yeah.
Plays on a lot of stuff. So
that's cool. So what was it like playing with those guys? I mean, pretty easy to work with? Extremely
easy. The brother dynamic is kind of funny sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're brothers. I'm kind of in the middle going,
Yeah, your brother Mike, a little ornery there. Met him before. Yeah. So. How's he doing?
He's good.
Good. Yeah, I liked him. Funny guy.
Yeah.
Now, any plans for doing any touring with this project, or any shows or anything?
Like
I know it's tough with you spread all over the place.
Yeah, we're all over the world. There's Henning's in Germany, if I didn't mention that. But right now there's no definitive plan either way. We're gonna wait till the album comes out. The album comes out July 7th.
Right.
We have a couple of singles out now, but the album itself is out July 7th. And so far, the reaction's been tremendous. I mean, very little negative words towards it, and they've been pretty enthusiastic from Fates Warning fans, Megadeth fans, and just metal fans in general.
Yeah.
But we'll wait to see how the album does. I mean, if it generates enough interest, we're
open to maybe doing
shows, then we'll definitely think about it. Right now, what we can envision is maybe not a full tour, because as you guys can read on the internet, a lot of bands are canceling their touring. It's getting
so expensive. Yeah.
In Europe and in the States, it's even for established bands, it's not really practical right now.
Right.
So what we envision happening, if anything, would be some festival shows over in Europe, and actually in the States, festivals is kind of the new.
Yeah. Just lost your audio, Joe. You're muted. There you go.
Hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened there.
That shit happens.
Yeah. All right. So
we'll just kind of see how it goes with the release, and maybe some one-off shows or some fests or something.
That's what I can see. I mean, unless the album sells way more than any of us think, and it demands a tour, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I can envision, like I said, some, one-offs, some festival shows in Europe. And like I was saying before we got cut off, even in the States, that seems to be the new way of touring too. More festivals are popping up, and bands are doing weekend pop-ups here and there. So I can envision something like that.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, what was it like, Joe, doing those Fates Warning, Awaken the Guardian shows? I mean, those were, God, had to have been unbelievable. And I've got the book that came out with it and the DVD and all that, but that had to be pretty cool to be a part of that after all these years. It's such an iconic album.
It was very cool. Luckily, we all still get along really well.
That's good.
I still communicate with most of those guys still, on a daily basis, but weekly, monthly. We always kept in touch. There was never really any hard feelings.
That's good. How's Steve doing?
Steve, I haven't talked to Steve in a while. He texted me on April 30th, May 1st, because
Walpurgis Night, of course. Yep, I
so
emailed Jim every year on that date. Tell him happy Walpurgis Night. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Steve gave me a text and the same thing. In fact, today, on the day of recording this, is Steve's birthday, I believe. So,
shit.
Happy birthday, Steve, if you happen to see this.
Hell yeah.
It'll be happy birthday when you see it. But
yeah, I contacted him on Facebook a couple years ago, and he responded, and it was cool. But it's been a really long time.
Not sure what he's up to. I think he's had some health problems and
That's
so forth.
too bad.
So I don't know how active he is musically these days, but
right.
But the project, getting that together was kind of tough because some of us hadn't been active musically at that time, so we had to shake some rust off.
I'm sure.
And I had to go back and listen to some of these songs because I heard some of these songs, and I can't tell you how long.
Right.
Basically, relearned them, which was, kind of a fun process.
Oh, I'm sure. You're like, hell, I played it like this? I don't remember this, right?
Yeah. I went back looking at old videos. Oh, yeah, that's what I did. But it came back fairly easy. And then when we all five of us got back together, it was like magic. It was, wow, this is great.
Yeah. Well, I was almost your understudy. You had a death in the family. Jim called me up one night, and he's like, hey, Joe can't do this show, and we're trying to get Joey Vera over here to do it, but if that falls through, can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, holy shit, it was like a big deal, and I was almost relieved Joey could do it, but at the same time, now, of course, I look back on it, that would have been so cool to be. It was at the Chance in Poughkeepsie. I think was
Yeah.
the show. But yeah,
And I
that was.
think the Toads Play show in New Haven too.
Yeah, I
Joey
think
ended
you're
up-
right. I think you're right. So your son Joey, another Joey, my son is named Joey as well. Your
Yeah.
son Joey is a drummer and is involved in a couple different bands. What's the latest with him, man?
Well, he's
He's a hell of a drummer, man.
He's a really good drummer. His main thing right now is his own band, which is called Limbs, Lambs, Limbs, and they're actually getting ready to hit the road next week. Actually, they'll be out
cool.
for the whole rest of 2023 on this long tour. A couple breaks here and there, but that's his main thing. They were kind of I guess a metalcore band, you'd call it, hardcore metalcore band. And they're really good, a bunch of good guys. They have a couple albums out, a couple EPs, and they're starting to work on some new tunes now, and they're getting ready for the tour.
That's cool.
But he also got hooked up a while back with Jamie Josta from
Right.
Hatebreed. And Jamie gives him a lot of work, which is great,
Yeah, that's great.
Jamie solo project that's just called Josta.
Right.
And Jamie's a very active dude, he just ran the Milwaukee Metal Fest.
Yeah, that was a big deal here. Yeah.
So, and he gets all these, Jamie and friends and all-star bands together. He had Dukes from Exodus, Ripper Owens, bunch of guys, Dino from, names escape me now. But so Joey gets to play drums with all these guys.
That's cool.
He gets to go play these festivals with, all heroes of his and mine.
Yeah.
And he's busy. Jamie keeps him busy doing these types of shows.
That's good.
Kirk from, Kirk Weinstein. And,
Crowbar. Yeah.
played.
Very cool. That's awesome.
So he's he keeps busy. He kind of took over for me in the music biz and the family, But,
yeah. Oh, that's good though. I'm glad you were able to pass that down to him.
Yeah.
Now, what sort of bass gear are you using these days, Joe? Not using the old Gailey and Kruger 800 RB like you used to?
Well, I haven't played out live in so long that
Right.
I just have some rudimentary stuff, as far as amps go. I have a Hartke head and a couple of Hartke cabinets, nothing crazy.
That's cool.
I use a Tech 21 Sans amp for all my sound effects, and I play Fenders now.
I saw a picture of you with a Fender. I didn't know you were playing Fenders. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I got my old Precision, which I've had for over 30 years, that's kind of a kick around bass,
Right.
But I also have a couple of Fender jazz basses that are my main basses now.
Yeah.
I still have my old Steinberger, which
I was just going to ask you if you had that, the headless. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that bass. It's the neck is so small.
Yeah.
It's good for my tempo. And it's always sounded great, but I've been having so many technical electronic issues with it and stuff. And,
oh, that sucks.
that I kind of I retired it for the most part, So especially Fender jazz right now.
That's cool. I got a Spectre bass and one of the Alex Webster models. That's the bass I was using up until I quit playing in 2016. I got neuropathy real bad in my hands from when I did chemo in 2001. That's just keeps messing with me. So it's hard for me to play much. I do some guest vocals on albums for bands and do some goofy karaoke stuff where I scream like death metal to like the lamest ballads and shit like that. And we use it on the podcast. So I have some fun with it. But yeah, I miss playing, but I also don't miss all the headaches and the bullshit and all that. So doing this, I still feel like I'm somewhat in the scene and helping bands promote themselves. So that's it's fun for me. Now, you still playing with the Good Rats, Joe?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that because we were talking about my son, because my son also played drums and that with me.
Right.
It's kind of cool playing a band with him. That was very cool. But we haven't done much lately. Ever since that pandemic thing, whatever the hell you want to call that.
Right.
Kind of put the kibosh on doing live shows. So we kind of took a break from that, and we really haven't got back together since. We had plans this summer to play at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, in July with a couple of, well, at least one of the original Good Rats, because obviously me and my son were originals. We were, big in the 70s.
Right.
But that fell through for whatever, some kind of scheduling reason or something. So we were going to do that this summer, but it's on the back burner still. We haven't, we don't have any plans right now, but it's always in the back of our minds. We're trying to get it back together. When,
That's cool.
Whenever my son is home, like I say, he's going to be away for half the year. So
Right.
And I'm kind of busy with the Withering Scorn thing. Well,
yeah.
It's not a dead deal, but it's been kind of quiet on that front.
Gotcha.
For any of you people who haven't heard the Good Rats, go back and check out their stuff from the 70s.
Yeah, good rock and roll. I went and seen you and Joey play with them when I was out in Connecticut that last time I was there with visiting Chris. So me and him went and seen you guys. That was fun.
Yeah. But their old stuff is just classic stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Rats
without a doubt.
Go check that record out, or Rats to Riches, or the first one, Tasty. That's actually the second one, but the first big one. They were so far ahead of their time. They progressive elements, hard rock elements. You can't define them. They don't fit any genre.
The best ones are tough to define, right?
Yeah. I mean, Pepe Marcello was the leader of that band.
Yeah, and he's passed now.
So so now his son Stefan has taken.
Oh, that's right.
He still releases some. He's still finding music that his father left after he passed. Wow. He's still finding it. Once in a while he'll release it, or we actually get an album where we found some of his old demos. We recorded new music around it, and so we put it out with Pepe singing on it. So stuff like that.
Cool.
The real diehard fans loved.
Yeah, that's super cool. Now, I love to ask bands this, especially the young bands, because I piss them off when I tell them my answer to this question. But what was your first heavy metal concert that you went to, and was that an influence on you, Joe, as a bass player or as a musician?
All right, well, my first heavy metal concert. Well, my first two concerts were Kansas and Jethro Tull.
Oh, nice.
They both had huge influences on me. Still, two of my favorite bands still to this day.
Right.
My first hard rock concert, I don't know if you call this metal either, but was Ted Nugent and Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush.
Nice.
That was, wow. I mean,
that had to be wild, man.
And but my first metal concert, I guess, would probably Priest and Maiden on the Point of Entry tour, which would have been the Killers tour for Maiden.
Oh, man. Wow.
To this day, Killers is probably one of my favorite albums of all time.
It's amazing.
And especially learn how to play bass from the Killers album.
Oh yeah, Wrathchild.
So you can say that show was an influence for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Steve Harris, from the third row.
God, yeah. Well, ironically, Joe, I mean, I know you're a few years older than me, but my first show, 1983, Peace of Mind tour, Steve Harris. I had just started getting ready to play bass then, so right before I played, and I was like completely floored. And then about a year later, I saw Metallica on the Ride the Lightning tour at the Agora in Hartford with Armored Saint and Wasp, and it was a blizzard. Were you there at that one?
I certainly was. Yeah.
I was going to say it wasn't too far from you, but it was a blizzard. And almost fucking died like 10 times getting there and 10 times getting home. But I was an arm's length from Cliff Burton and got to see him do Anesthesia Pulling Teeth. And I was just completely blown away. And that's what got me into the more extreme side of metal, the more underground stuff. So I was listening to, Priest, Maiden, and Ozzy and stuff like that. And then when I saw Metallica with that tour, I was just completely blown away. But I love doing this with bands that are, in their 20s and they hear some shit like that. And they're just like, wow. But, you talk about feel old when somebody's telling me his first metal concert was like 10 years ago. I'm like, God damn, I feel fucking ancient. But, in those instances, in those conversations, it's all right being old because it's some vintage shit that nobody that's younger would even completely fully understand, Yeah, very cool, very cool.
That was probably my first real metal show, I guess.
That's cool. My first actual show was the Kinks.
Wow.
Yeah, I went with a guy who was on my paper route as a kid. He had an extra ticket, and he took me with him, and I wasn't even of driving age yet. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And then I saw Maiden like 6 months later or something like that. But yeah. Well, Joe, is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention? We got the album coming out. Oh, somehow I missed this question because I know this was on here. I noticed when you told me the album is coming out on July 7th, I'm like, wait a second. Now, July 7th, every year for me, I call it King Diamond Day because that was a huge date on the Abigail album, the 7th day of July. And then I'm like, wait a second. Now, Glen Drover used to play in King Diamond. I know he wasn't on Abigail, but I'm like, I wondered, was there a significance to the 7th of July? I didn't know if you knew if there was or not.
Yeah. No.
No?
Just coincidence.
Oh, shit.
Company that date. And,
okay.
so I doubt
Well, you tell Glenn that I'm still suspicious. I think that it has to do with this King Diamond days. But yeah, I just wondered if that had anything to do with it.
No, as far as I know.
Right.
So speaking of that, the album is going to be called Prophets of Demise.
Right.
That's the name of the record. It does indeed come out July 7th.
Yep.
On Frontiers Records.
Okay.
Which is kind of different because Frontiers is known more for AOR metal, 80s type metal. So it was a lot of people think it's kind of odd that we ended up on Frontiers, but they were the first ones to show real interest, and they absolutely love it.
Awesome.
And they're very behind it, very enthusiastic about it, the whole label. And they've done a great job so far getting all the packaging and stuff together. So we're excited that it's coming out on Frontiers. We had other labels interested, and they were the ones who were the most enthusiastic. Gave us a great deal. And I mean, originally we went to Metal Blade.
Yeah.
Because I was on Metal Blade obviously for years.
Sure.
Shawn's previous band, Active Defiance, was on Metal Blade. And Shawn and Glen were both in a band called Eidolon before they were in Megadeth, and that was on Metal Blade.
Interesting.
So we all thought, you know what? We're all Metal Blade alumni. It's heavy.
I'm surprised they didn't take it.
If for anybody who hasn't heard it yet, it's just heavy.
It is fucking heavy, dude.
Power metal. It's not thrash. It's metal.
No, it's freaking amazing. I was blown away, man.
So we're thinking Metal Blade be, perfect. And it didn't work out. They passed on it. So
all right.
So we moved on, and like I said, we're so happy with Frontiers, their enthusiasm and stuff so far. So July 7th, Prophets of Demise is the name of the record. Of course,
awesome.
We are Withering Scorn. So
awesome. And if you're listening,
we have 2 singles out now, so you can find them on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, all that stuff. So go check it out.
Yeah, the singles are fantastic. I'm getting ready to do a review of it this week. But if you're listening to this or watching this, in the episode description, I'll link to where you can get a hold of these guys and advance order the album. It's friggin' amazing. I really appreciate you doing this with me, Joe. Glad to see you're still a pirate of the underground out there, still playing metal. And that you still recognize April 30th like all the rest of us do. I thought I was the only one, so very cool. Well, I'm going to play the single, the title track, Prophets of Demise. It's an amazing track. This is from the upcoming Withering Scorn album, July 7th. So, Joe, we're going to let them listen to that as we close this out. And thank you, and please be welcome here anytime if you want to give us any updates. So.
All right, Pete. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Great to talk to you again.
Same here, dude.
Mother, man.